Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. A very warm welcome to everyone for this Sunday live online talk on behalf of Sri Sri Panchatattva Temple, also known as Dublin Krishna Temple. Let's offer our obeisances onto Sri Panchatattva deities. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavatara Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. Sri Panchatattva ki Jai. So today we are going to talk on the topic bliss versus happiness and how to access the unlimited bliss that's always accessible, that we actually are. Whether we know it or not, we are actually unlimited bliss. Please put in where you're watching from in the chat so that we can know where everyone is watching from. And if you're watching a replay, please put in #replay. So please do put in where you're watching from. Thank you very much. Before we talk on the topic bliss versus happiness, accessing the unlimited bliss, let me offer some prayers. Om Ajnanatirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Nama Shreshtham Manamapi Shachiputram Matra Swarupam Rupam Tasyagrajam Mururim Mathurim Goshthavati Radha Kundam Girivaram Maho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi. Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Adadandastranam Dante Dam Yachah Punah Punah Shriman Rupa Padambhojam Dhulisyam Janma Janmani. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much, Bala Prabhu, for mentioning that you're watching from Dublin, PRC South Talks. Everyone else, please do mention where you're watching from so that we can know where you're watching from. Thank you so much. And if you're watching a replay, please put in hashtag replay later. We are going to discuss about the topic bliss versus happiness and how to access the unlimited bliss. And actually, to understand that we are actually unlimited bliss. Originally and eternally, we are unlimited bliss. I'm going to talk in 3 phases during this talk. The first phase, for about 20 minutes, we will discuss about what is happiness. The next 20 minutes, around 20 minutes, we'll discuss about what is bliss. And the last section, we will discuss the difference between bliss and happiness, bliss versus happiness. Okay, so we go to the first section, which is the understanding of what is happiness in this material world. Krishna mentions about the temporary nature of happiness in this material world. The verse is Yehi sansparshaja bhoga dukha yonaya evate adyantavanta kaunteya na teshu ramate buddha. So Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that the happiness that is derived from the senses contacting the sense objects gives birth to distress. Dukkha yonaya evate. So the senses contacting the sense objects. The best example Srila Prabhupada often quotes in many of his lectures and many of his conversations is about how if someone likes something to eat, for example, if someone likes the Indian sweet dish called rasagulla, which is very sweet, and because a person likes the sweet, the person will keep eating that sweet continuously. What will happen after a certain time? The intensity of attraction towards that object will proportionally start decreasing. This is the nature of the sense coming in contact with the sense object. So the sense in this case is the tongue, which is tasting. And the sense object we can say is the rasagulla, the sweet ball. A person has got a lot of attraction for that. And they start eating it 1 piece, 2nd piece, 3rd piece, 4th piece, 10th piece. What is happening? The attraction to the object has started diminishing. And if a person keeps on eating, at a certain point of time, if say a person has taken 20, then what is it going to cost? There is not probably, there is more certainty that it could cause some kind of indigestion. This is a very classic example that Srila Prabhupada gives. How when the senses are coming in touch with the sense object, it has the potency in it to create distress. And this is what is so-called happiness that we see in this material world. The premise of happiness in the material world is based on the temporary nature of the material body. And therefore, it can never be everlasting. Krishna mentions in the next line of that verse, Adya Antavanta Kaunteya. So this, if you can say, so-called happiness in this material world has got a beginning and has got an end. And therefore it is temporary. Something that has got a beginning and end is temporary. And something that has no beginning and no end is permanent, is eternal. And this is the understanding that we have to attain. One of the biggest paradox of living in this material world is that the only thing we observe is the body. And sometimes we observe the mind as well. But we never understand who is giving the power to the body and mind. What is the source of power to the body and mind? What is the difference between a living person and a dead person? And when we try and understand that difference, when we try to understand what is it that distinguishes a living entity from a dead entity, then we understand that there is something above the temporary happiness and distress that we see. So continuing with the topic of the discussion of the happiness in the material world, if a person says that I will be happy if I get this, we can always see this whenever we have a desire comes in the mind suddenly that I want to acquire this thing. And when that desire to acquire something comes, immediately we are in a state of lack. And in that state of lack, we are unhappy. So it is a desire, the desire to acquire something that Krishna actually mentions in Bhagavad Gita about this thing, about how a living entity has got this dhyayate vishayan pumsa. So meditating on a sense object. And when we are meditating on a material sense object, we get attached to that sense object. ध्यायते विषयान् पुंसः संगस्तेषुपजायते. So we start getting attached to that object. Sangat sanjayate kama. And when we are attached to that object, we are passionate about getting that object, whatever that object may be. There is so much passion that some way or the other, I have to get that object. Sangat sanjayate kama. The passion comes in. Kamat krodho bijayate. When there is passion to attain that object, somehow or the other, if that activity to attain that object is not giving any results, we start getting angry because the attachment has already got developed. And that attachment and the passion towards the material object is causing anger to develop. And when there is anger, krodhat bhavati samoha. So when there is anger, one is getting bewildered. So we know very, very well how when we are angry, we totally forget about everything else. The anger takes over everything else. And we become some other person. We are no longer the person who we actually are once the anger takes over. Krodhat bhavati. So it's a state of bewilderment. And in that anger, a person could do anything. And then the memory is lost. Smriti bhramshat buddhi nasha. The intelligence is lost as well. And then that is the cause of the fall down. So where is all this starting from? Dhyayate vishyan pumsa. Meditating on the sense object. That's where it is starting from. And the biggest challenge in the conditioned living entity with the body and mind is that we think that attaining the next thing that we are attached to will give us happiness. So we go after it with full life, full effort. And what happens when we get it? That so-called happiness would stay for a certain amount of time. And then what happens? Again, a new desire will come in. Suddenly a new desire comes in. And then the new desire will again make the person go in that direction, in the direction of the new desire. Again, the person might attain it or might not attain it, depending on the circumstances, depending on the endeavor. The person doesn't attain it, again there is anger. The person attains it, there is that semblance of happiness, but that disappears again. So this is the nature of the happiness in the material world, that it is temporary. And what is the reason it is temporary? Because the premise of actually having that happiness is based on a temporary body. The body has a date of birth, and when there is a date of birth, there is a date of death as well. And that's why it is temporary. Therefore, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Mamupetya punarjanmam dukkhalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmana samsiddhim paramam gata. So Krishna says that dukkhalayam ashashvatam. That this material world is an abode of misery and it is temporary. Therefore, Krishna says, Mamupetya. Try and come to me. Then there is no punarjanma. There is no rebirth again in this material world. In this dukkhalayam and ashashvatam, the place of misery and a temporary place. Napnuvanti mahatmana samsiddhim paramamgata. Who are the people who try to understand the original nature? What is our original nature? They are the great souls. Mahatmana, Mahan Atma, the great souls. Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakritim ashrita bhajan tananya manaso gyatva bhutadim avyayam. The great souls, because they want to understand what is the source of happiness, what is the source of bliss. They understand that this nature of the nothing giving happiness in this material world. We can keep any material object. If it is based upon attachment to a material object, it can never give real satisfaction. Imagine a place where there is only one person and everything else is only objects. There is no real life forms. How long can a person be happy in that place? So the actual satisfaction, the real satisfaction, comes with the interaction with other living entities. And who are the living entities? The living entities are the people who have the source of growth in them. It's mentioned about Shadavikar in the Vedas, the 6 kinds of changes that takes place. So first, the living entity is born, then it grows, then it stays for some time, then it produces byproducts, then it dwindles and vanishes. So these 8 kinds of changes happen in this material world. And how is this change happening? What is the reason that this change happens? Because of the presence of the living entity. If the living entity is not present, there is no growth. There is no change happening. So this Krishna says, Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yavanam jara tatha dehantaram prapti dhiras tatra namoyati. Because there is a presence of the proprietor of the body within the body, there is this change taking place from childhood to youth to old age. Kaumaram yavanam jara. And then tatha dehantaram prapti. So similarly, a person has to give up the old body. Krishna gives another example. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grananti naroparani tatha shariraya vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. What that means is, just like a person takes off the old cloth and puts on a new cloth, similarly, the living entity, the real person, who is the occupier of a particular body, gives up the old body and takes on a new body. So we are nearly over with the first part of our talk. And the first part was understanding the temporary nature of the so-called material happiness in this world. So it is nicely leading to the second part of understanding what bliss is. And we have slowly gone into that now in terms of when I started talking about the understanding of who we really are. That is the beginning of understanding of the eternal, unlimited bliss. When we understand that we are not this external body, how can we understand this very clearly that we are not this external body? Because we say my body, even in a normal talking language, we don't say I body. We say my body. So the immediately next question is, who am I? We say my name. We don't say I name. Again, immediately the question, who am I? My mind. Who am I? My home. Who am I? If I say my home, and if I ask who am I, I'll say I am this body. But that is just a so that is a different layer. But we just say that my body. We don't say I body. So this is the way of understanding that to understand who we really are. That is the beginning of spirituality. Before that, it's all based on our bodily needs. So Krishna actually mentions in Bhagavad Gita, 4 kinds of people come to me. Chaturvidha bhajante jana sukritino arjuna artho jignasur artharthi jnani cha bharatarshava. 4 kinds of people come to me. One who is in distress, one who is inquisitive, artho jignasu, one who wants wealth, and one who is in knowledge. So the 2 kinds, one who is in distress and one who wants wealth, they are one category. And then one who is inquisitive and one who is in knowledge, they are the second category. So the inquisitive people and the people who are in knowledge, they are the people who can understand what the eternal bliss is. The people who are in distress and who want wealth, it's a good beginning. Because some way or the other, one has to go to the Lord. Akama sarva kama va moksha kama udharadhi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. It is said in the scriptures that if one does not have any desires, or one has millions and billions of desires, unlimited desires. So when there is unlimited desires, the access to unlimited bliss is closed. Access to unlimited bliss happens when there is no desire. Desirelessness gives access to unlimited bliss. But whatever be the way, whether one has unlimited desires or one has no desires, the most important thing is to akama sarva kama, and even if one has a desire for liberation, which is actually, in a sense, it's probably a good desire to have in human form of life, even though a devotee of Krishna is in such a state of mind that the devotee is saying that it is up to you, O Lord. Mama janmani janmani ishware bhavatad bhaktiraitu kritvai. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu epitomizes that wonderful prayer where he says that that I'm not even desiring liberation. I can keep taking birth in this world continuously, but please allow me, please allow me to serve you, O Lord, wherever I am. So the first thing is theoretically understanding something. So in theory, I understand that that I say my body, I don't say I body, so therefore I am not this body. Theoretically, I understand that. But how do I practically understand it now? So that is another journey between theoretical understanding and actually practically experiencing it at every moment. And that is bliss. That is eternal bliss. When someone practically experiences that all this is temporary and I am eternally part and parcel of the Lord, who is Satchidananda Vigraha. So bliss, the bliss is called Ananda in Sanskrit. Sat, Chit, and Ananda. So the truth, the state of such a person who is in such a bliss is similar to an example is given of that of a tortoise. The tortoise is within its shell. And whenever it wants, it will come out of the shell. And whenever it wants, it will go inside the shell. So it decides when to go inside the shell and when to come outside of the shell. This is the situation of the person who is in unlimited bliss, like a tortoise. So that person knows when to come out and look at the world, and then when to go inside and be in that bliss. So this is the example that Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita. Then apuryamanam achalam pratishta samudram apa pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sa shantim apnoti na kama kami. Krishna gives another example there in Bhagavad Gita about the bliss, about the accessibility of the bliss. Another example is given that of how the rivers from all the rivers are entering into the ocean. Rivers entering, the waters of river entering into the ocean is a metaphor given to understand that the desires keep coming into the living entity, into the minds of the living entity. We see something, oh, I want this. We see another thing, I want that. We see another thing, I want this. It's continuously coming, continuously. So what is happening then? And if a person is trying to satisfy this, that, the desire, then there is no end to it. It will just, there is no end. So this is an eternal happiness seeking pursuit, which has no end again. So instead of going into that eternal happiness seeking pursuit, if a person understands that the eternal bliss is already within, then there is no one can come out of the cycle, the eternal cycle of endless seeking and feeling miserly about it. Seeking, again feeling miserly about it. Seeking, feeling miserly about it. It's a cycle. That's an eternal cycle. There is a very beautiful example that's given in one of the talks and one of the scriptures about how, especially in the tropical countries, there would be the summer season will be very hot. So if a person is lying down under the shade of a banyan tree and never going out, just under the cool shade of the banyan tree, then there is no experience of heat. But one goes outside the banyan tree, one starts getting the heat, and then one comes back, and then one again experiences the cool shade of the banyan tree. This is the situation of the living entities trying to seek that temporary happiness. The bliss is already there within. So it's like the example of that person going out of the shade of the banyan tree into the scorching heat and then coming back again to the shade of the banyan tree. But if the person did not go outside the shade of the banyan tree, then they will never experience that scorching heat. So this is the metaphor given, that if one understands that the source of all happiness is already there within, that eternal bliss is already there within, then there is no nothing can attract that person materially, because the person knows very clearly and experiences it as well, that the bliss is there within, because I am part and parcel of the Lord. So this is basically the concept of bliss. So this is the second part of the talk. The first part was we were trying to understand happiness, and we said that it is basically temporary. It is, and it actually is causing misery. Yattad agre vishamiva pariname amrutopamam tat sukham satvikam proktam atma jnana prasadajam. So the bliss, what is bliss? Yattad agre vishamiva. In the pursuit of eternal bliss, it will feel like poison in the beginning. And that's again a paradox. It's a very strange paradox again. The reason is because we are identifying ourselves with the body, avidya. It is the avidya. Yoga talks about pancha kleshas, the five kinds of impurity in the conditioned state of life, and it starts with avidya, ignorance. So avidya gives rise to asmita. The ignorance gives rise to this feeling that I am this body. And immediately when I think that I am this body, then there is raga and dvesha. Some things I am very much attached to, some things I am totally repelled by. In that bodily state of mind. And then the final is abhinivesha, the fear of death. Again, it is based on body, because I think I am this body. I think I've got so much that there is nothing other than body. I am this body. So when the body is gone, I am gone. I'm lost. So this is the biggest fear. The greatest fear is the fear of death, because it is based. The beginning is avidya, ignorance, and therefore that beautiful prayer that's sung in the honor of Guru, preme bhakti yaha hote avidya vinashayate. So when there is the love for the Lord, the ignorance gets destroyed. Love for the Lord destroys ignorance, because that love is our original nature. We eternally love Lord, love Krishna. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabo Nai. Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Korayodai. It's not that this love for the Lord is something external to us. It is within us. Every moment we have the love for the Lord. Every second we have the love for the Lord. It says that we don't realize that love. And therefore this path of spirituality is called self-realization, God realization. It's not called self-exerting or trying to create something new. It is already there. All the living entities are part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna himself says, Sarva Yonisha Kaunteya Murteya Sambhavantiya Tasam Brahma Madhyonir Aham Bija Pradapita. So Krishna says that of all the living entities in this whole universe, the material nature is the mother, and I am the seed-giving father. All the living entities, there is no distinction, because or this is an ant, this is an insect, or that's an elephant, or that's a blue whale, or whatever be the living entity. It's Krishna says, I am the seed-giving father. This is, on that basis, you can have the real, Srila Prabhupada mentions about it, about understanding about the real unity. That is the basis of real unity, understanding that Krishna is the father of all the living entities. That gives a real unity. That gives a real understanding. Okay, so this is the bliss. So the bliss is understanding that we are part and parcel of the Lord, and we are eternal. Body, anything can happen to the body at any point of time, and this unfortunate situation that the world has found itself in since more than a year shows, and it's in a very unfortunate way that it shows, and therefore we should actually do a prayer which is Sarve Santu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kasyit Dukh Abhag Bhavet. This is a very beautiful prayer which says that let everyone be happy. Sarve Santu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Niramaya. Let everyone be free from all diseases. Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu. Let everyone see auspiciousness everywhere. Ma Kasyit Dukh Abhag Bhavet. And let there be no misery, and let there be no misfortune to anyone. So this is a prayer that we should pray in these testing times. So this is the nature, unfortunately, and the material world. That's the reason that it's dukkhalayam, because at any point of time anything can happen. Padam yad vipadam. So Krishna, there is this in Srimad Bhagavatam. It is mentioned that in this material world there is distress at every step. But for someone who is samashritaye padapallava plavam mahatpadam punyayeshu murare, bhavam buddhir vatsapadam param padam yad vipadam na tesham. So this is a very, very beautiful prayer in Srimad Bhagavatam, which says that if one has fully surrendered onto the lotus feet of Krishna, Mukunda, one who gives the liberation. So even the liberation becomes not important for a devotee, because the devotee is purely loving the Lord. So that particular verse is saying that if one is 100% surrendered onto the lotus feet of the Lord, Samashritaye Pada Pallava Plam, so then that lotus feet becomes like a ship that helps one cross the ocean of birth and death. Or it makes that ocean into a small water, like a hoof print of a calf, so that one can easily cross over that ocean of birth and death. This is the beautiful prayer. So that is the real bliss, when one knows that one is eternally linked to Krishna. At every moment one is linked to Krishna, and that link can never get destroyed, whatever be the condition. One is always in touch with the Lord. So that is the accessibility of bliss. We are nearly now, so we have gone to the happiness, we have understood about the bliss. Now we understand the difference. And we have discussed that as well. While we were talking, we have discussed that as well, in terms of what is the difference. So the difference is based on this understanding the clear distinction between knowing who we really are. When we know that we are eternal, there was no, this body is just like a dress that has to be given up at certain point of time. So the thing about the dress is the dress can get old or the dress can get torn, but something will happen to the dress. This understanding is extremely important to access the bliss that we are. And when we access the bliss, then the externals doesn't matter. Sukha dukhe same krutva labha labho jaya jayo tato yuddhaya yujjasva daivam papam avapsyasi. So Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna about how maintaining the equanimity of mind, that is bliss. When one has equanimity, when one is in that state of that, if there is something happy, some externally happy thing is coming, one is balanced. Externally, if some sad misery is coming, one is still balanced. Labha labho, one has gained some profit. One is not externally totally elated, or one gets some loss. Again, the state of mind is, when the state of mind is in that, the example given is that of a lake that is undisturbed. In that lake, the water is totally undisturbed. So one might actually throw a stone in the water. How long that ripple of the stone will last? For some time, but again the lake will become calm. That is a metaphor that is given. So this calmness of mind, nasti buddhir ayuktasya nacha yuktasya bhavana nacha bhavayata shanti ashantasya kuta sukham. So this is when the mind is calm and when the mind is surrendered onto the lotus feet of the Lord, that is yukta, the connection. But if one is not connected, then one's intelligence is a little bit haywire. It is going in different directions. Nasti buddhir ayuktasya, and when nacha yuktasya bhavana, one does not have that feeling towards the Lord. Nacha bhavayata shanti, and when there is no feeling for the Lord, that real peace is not there. Ashantasya kuta sukham, and when there is no peace, there can be no permanent happiness, permanent bliss. The reason for how one can actually get eternal bliss is by being in a peaceful state of mind. That is the source of accessing or understanding that we are that bliss, when we are in that peaceful state of mind. But when the mind is in a state of flux, getting too much, when something good happens, it's totally jumping up and down. Something bad happens, it goes into a state of depression. If it's constantly going up and down, then there is no accessibility of the bliss. Why is it going up and down? Because of the identification with the material body again. Because one thinks that the body is the only reality. There is nothing else other than the body. And that is that causes the source of misery. And there's this beautiful verse which says, Ramante yogina anante satyanande chidatmani iti rama padenasho param brahma abhidiyate. The yogis, the people who are linking oneself with Krishna, they are accessing unlimited bliss eternally. Ramante yogina anante. And what kind of bliss is that? Satyanande, chidatmani. It's the real bliss which is accessed in relation to one's being in the state of understanding that one is eternal. So in that state, One is when one is in that state of being eternal and eternally related with the Lord, then in that state, one is accessing unlimited bliss, eternal bliss. And therefore, iti Rama padenashu, param brahma vidiyate. Therefore, it is said that that's why the name Rama is given, that he is the source of all the bliss. Ramante yoginana, iti Rama, param brahma. So, and that's how he is the supreme Brahman. So Arjuna actually calls Krishna Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan, Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adi Devam Ajam Vibhum. This is what Arjuna calls Krishna when he sees the universal form of the Lord. You are the supreme Brahman. You are the supreme destination. He says to Krishna, Param Dhama, Pavitram. You are the pure, totally pure. Paramam Bhavan. You are the original person. Purusham Shashvatam. You are eternally existing. Divyam. You are divine. Adi Devam. You are the origin of all the demigods. Ajam. You are unborn. And Vibhum. You are the greatest. So these are all the Ahustvam Rishayas Sarve Devarshi Naradastata Asito Devalo Vyaso Swayam Chaiva Bravishime. So then Arjuna says that it's not just that I am telling this. This is told by the great sages and the great demigods as well, that you are the supreme personality of Godhead. This understanding that we are eternally linked to the supreme personality of Godhead and we are eternal, that is from that where we get the access to the eternal bliss, and we are that eternal bliss. Everything else is temporarily going up and down, but we are the eternal bliss because we are eternally part and parcel of the supreme personality of Godhead. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kankshati samas sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. This is said by Krishna. So this understanding that everything else is temporary, that we are all eternally linked with the Lord. Brahma, in that state, there is prasannatma. That is the bliss. And in that state, there is no hankering and lamentation. Hankering is the cause of lamentation. So as we discussed in the beginning, when we were talking about happiness, when we see something, we are hankering for that thing, and we think that when we get that thing, we'll get happiness. So we get that thing, but unfortunately, that happiness doesn't stay for long. It stays for some time, and then there is another hankering. And then we get that, or we might not get that. If we don't get that, there is lamentation. So that is shochati kankshati. There is lamentation, there is hankering and lamentation. So in the state when we understand that we are eternally part and parcel of Krishna, then that hankering and lamentation is not there. And that's where the accessibility of eternal bliss is there. Then we understand that we are actually that. We are a ball of bliss. If you want to give a metaphor, we all are a ball of bliss. And when we know that, then we can just spread that bliss everywhere through us. Because when we are practically experiencing that, that will be experienced by everyone who comes in touch with us. So with that, I would like to thank you all very much for listening. And I can go to the questions here. So Subhash Kumar Singh, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavad Pranam. Bala Naidu, thank you for telling that you're watching from Dublin, PRC, South Docks. Anamika Sahu, Hare Krishna. Yuvraj Paswan, Hare Krishna. Apollicapto Gamer has asked a question, how I get rid of masturbation addiction many times. And it's a question. Thank you for asking that question, Apollicapto Gamer. I think it's very important to first of all accept that this issue is there, and then work towards the most important thing is to have a higher taste. So Krishna mentions Vishya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rashavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. So if we can get a higher taste, automatically we'll give up the lower tastes. And this is the way to get rid of any lower taste. And what you mentioned about masturbation is one of them. It's again, it is based on the sense getting in touch with the sense object. So and it actually will lead one into a state of guilt, which is a negative emotion. So and it goes like a constant cycle of negative emotions. So the way to get out of it is to develop healthy relationship. Develop healthy relationship with whatever, with every person you're coming in touch with. Apo lik capto gamer pro, and then develop healthy relationship. Experience joy in positive things, and develop that higher taste. And when we develop the higher taste, automatically the lower tastes can be given up. The best way is to be in the state of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Concentrate on the sound vibrations, the divine sound vibrations, which will get us to a state of higher state, that higher state of taste for chanting the holy names of the Lord. And then automatically all the lower tastes can be given up. So thank you for asking Apocalypto Prabhu. Mamata Baba Hare Krishna Prabhuji, SS Tour Yatra, Jai Shri Ram. Please help me. You said, I'm not sure what was the question. Shilpi Karmaga Hare Krishna. Gopalacharya Prabhu, Dandavat Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for you kindly explaining Shastra without any adulteration. Thank you, Prabhu. One question regarding the identity. You gave the example that saying my body suggests we are not the body, but we also say my soul, which would also suggest that we are yet something else. Could you please comment on this? Thank you very much, Prabhu, for this very interesting point. Yes, I think, yeah, we could actually say my soul as well. Then again, we have to say, who am I? I think this question about who am I is very important. Kastvam koham kuta ayata, kame janini kame tata. This is said in Bhaja Govindam by Shankaracharya. So this, again, if I say my soul, then again the question should be, who am I? And when we ask that question, who am I, then we are reaching to that state where we understand that we are part and parcel of the Lord, eternally part and parcel of the Lord. So the most important understanding is that Jivera Swarupaya Krishnera Nityadas. I think the understanding that we are eternally linked to the Lord, and we have an eternal form with which we serve the Lord. So I think that would be the thing, Prabhu, to again say, who am I? I think if we say my soul, then again, we are saying my. So that my word is coming, then we have to ask, who am I? Who am I? Immediately when the my comes, who am I? And then we know, yes, we are part and parcel of the Lord. I think that's where the answer is, Prabhu. Thank you very much, Gopalacharya Prabhu, for your question. Harsh Tiwari, Hare Krishna. Katar Hindu Kadam. Yeah, who are you? 2%. Ram, Vinod Kumar. Jai Shri Krishna. Vinod Kumar. Okay. Dilbar Khan, Hare Krishna. Sita Robinson, Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much for your time. I hope there was something that we could all learn together in terms of understanding what is the temporary nature of happiness and distress in this material world, and the permanent nature of blissfulness that we are. This is the most important thing. If we want to take one takeaway from what we have discuss today for the 1 hour, it is to understand that we are bliss because we are part and parcel of Krishna. It's not that it has to be accessed from somewhere else. We are eternal bliss. And because we are eternally related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And whatever be the circumstance, whatever be the situations, the eternal us, which is the real us, is never affected, because the eternal us is always linked to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is Venum Kwanantam Maravinda Dalayaksham Parhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govinda Madipurusham Tamam Bhajam. Is the most beautiful person, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. And we are all in that, because we are part and parcel of Krishna. We have all that in the minute quantity. Aishwaryasya Samagrasya Viryasya Yashasa Shriya Jnana Vairagyayachaiva Sannam iti Bhagangana. So Krishna is the supreme. Krishna is supremely wealthy, supremely powerful, supremely beautiful, supremely knowledgeable, and supreme renunciant. And because we are part and parcel of the Lord, we also have all those qualities. And therefore, whatever be the situation, let's always take shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord and ask for his ask him that we can always remain his eternal servitor, that we can always have that understanding of being his eternal servitor. Never forget that there is this beautiful verse which says that whatever be the yena tena prakarena mana krishne niveshye sarva vidhi nishedasyor etayor eva kinkara. Whatever be the way, one should fix our mind on the lotus feet of the Lord, and all the other things are just rules. All the rules and regulations should be subservient to this most important rule, that one should fix one's mind in the lotus feet of the Lord. And when that is done, then nothing can. Yam labdva chaparam labham manyate nadikam tata yasmin sthitena dukkhena guru napi vichalyate. Krishna says that when one gains that state, no other state looks greater than that. So that's the state of surrender to the Lord. So when it's 100% surrender to the Lord, then one might be going through the most difficult state, but one does not get disturbed. Yasmin sthitena dukkhena guru napi vichalyate. One could be in the greatest calamity, but one will not get disturbed, because one is in the state of total surrender onto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Let's all pray today that let's be in that state of total surrender onto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And let's again pray this wonderful prayer: Sarve santu sukhina, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kasyit dukh bhag bhavet. Let everyone be happy. Sarve santu sukhina, sarve santu niramaya. Let everyone be free from all diseases. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. Let everyone see auspiciousness everywhere. And ma kasyit dukha bhag bhavet. And let there be no distress and no unfortunate situation. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Shri Shri Panchatattva ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Govind ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. Sarvam Shri Krishnarpanamastu. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.